Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Album of the Year series on Music Meltdown, which we go through every year, list our favorites from said year. We're in the 70s, 1973. This is a loaded year. Pretty high up there in my list of like favorite years ever. It's not going to touch my beloved '05, but it's pretty high up there. So many different styles, so many different ideas. Even in the records that I don't love, there's still so much cool stuff going on this year. Patrick, how are you feeling about 73?
Yeah, ditto. It's a fantastic year, loaded top to bottom. I had a hell of a time coming up with five honorables and top five for me. And I must have changed my mind three or four different times, moving them back and forth because I don't know. I love each and every one of them. It's just really hard to make cuts to edit down. Like you said, it's a loaded year, and you're right. It's spanning multiple genres, uh, innovative, a wide variety of different approaches and changing tastes, and forward-looking music as well. Highly influential each and every album that I'm sure both of us are going to mention. So
Righty. That being said, it is time to get into some of these ones that missed for me. Big list of honorable mentions here, so let's just get these going. Got my favorite Sabbath record with Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Aladdin Sane by David Bowie, For Every Man by Jackson Brown, Selling England by the Pound, my favorite Genesis record, Missing by Yelbert Road by Elton John. Probably my pick for the underrated record of the year being Solid Air by John Martin. Band on the Run, just missing. New York Dolls, just missing. GP by Gene, no, not Gene Clark,
Graham
Graham
Parsons,
Parsons, just missing.
right?
The Queen debut missing, and then
Mm.
a duology of Glam, Stranded by Roxy Music, and Tanks by T Rex. That laundry list of suggestions. Let's get into the top five. Starting out, Band I Love, and album that took me a while to get into, as we've discussed before. Fresh, Sly and the Family Stone. I just love Sly and the Family Stone. They're, for me, the pinnacle of funk rock, sort of funk music in general. Sly Stone could really do no wrong throughout this era. Wonderful wordsmith, and the poetic messages he was playing together are outstanding. This is still, in some ways, a political record, but at their core, this is just them jamming out. It's not as devoted to those styles as Stand or There's a Riot Going On. It just, for me, a great showcase of what the Family Stone were at this point. Really killer stuff. Another soul record that I love a lot from this year going to be Call Me by Al Green. Just really great writing. Once again, the songs are lovely, and it might be my favorite produced record of this year. Love the sound of it. Next, we're going into a bit of a singer songwriter. Tom Waits, Closing Time. Could be my favorite Tom Waits record. Loved it a lot. It's him at his most stripped back, sort of ornate instrumental styles without obviously the later Cookie Monster vocals, if you will. Just really beautiful songs and outstanding performances. Top two. Number one was always kind of set in stone, but my number two, always giving them a shot when I can. Mott the Hoople, just killer rock band. The core, Ian Hunter, essentially rocks from Bob Dylan at this point. I just love him as a lyricist to death. Songs are great. The performances are awesome. Mick Ralph's top tier guitar player. But number one was always going to be this. Gotta be Intervisions by Stevie Wonder. Just the most perfect thing that he ever put to tape. I love Stevie, one of my favorite musicians of all time. The songs on here are just outstanding. They're very groovy. They're very sort of riff centric, but still you have great drum parts and amazing bass lines mixed in with just really great sort of social commentary from Stevie and just really outstanding performances per always. Stevie really could put together a record that very few can. It's a top 10 record for me. Absolutely adore it. Intervisions by Stevie Wonder. I wonder.
Great list. We've got some major overlap on here. Not too bad. I'll have different, but there's a and mixed within honorables and our top five. But yes, I have several of your picks as my picks as well. So with the honorables, definitely Al Green's "Call Me." A lot of people consider this his best. I don't know if I consider it his best, but it's one of certainly. It's so good that I think 3 of the songs on here, or 4 of the songs on here are on his greatest hits album, and that tells you all you need to know about how good this album is. Um, Again, a pinnacle of soul, and a pinnacle of smooth and southern soul outside of the Motown system, which it gives it a different vibe, a different feel, and I really love this album. Bob Marley and the Wailers, "Catch a Fire." Oh, this is such a good album. Um, Everything about this album, and this is the heart of the Wailers. This is probably, as a unit, along with Burnin', this is their best stuff, and certainly before Peter Tosh left, and Bunnyman. Uh, they this is the Barrett brothers with the rhythm section, the bass and drums. Oh, they're so good, so tight. Fantastic album. A lot of people think this is his debut, or this is the Wailers, Marley and the Wailers' debut album. It's not. They were doing music long before this, but this is the first to catch on in the West. And it's a classic. John Martin, Solid Air, like you said before, it's underrated, overlooked, ignored almost, which is a crying shame. Um, don't Want to Know About Evil. Oh, such a good song. The title track, which is a love letter to Nick Drake, his friend. Beautiful. I think Adrian, you had said that there's like R&B and jazz and rock and folk. It's a mixture of English folk in particular. It's a mixture of a lot of different genres and styles, and it blends perfectly well in Martin's world. He's fantastic, and he's an amazing guitarist with that slapback playing style, and an amazing singer. Mothers, Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Overnight Sensation. Oh, this is such a great album. This is I don't know if this is still Zappa's top selling album. Could be something else, but it's one of his best selling albums. And this is a very accessible Frank Zappa album for a lot of people, I think. There's so many great tracks on this album. I can no, Ike didn't play, but Tina did. Tina sings along with the Ikeettes, I should say, on this album. They go uncredited, but they're backup singers for Frank on this. This is a great album. This is the first album, I think, that Frank was singing again after he was pushed off a stage by a crazed audience uh, member whose girlfriend had a crush on Frank. Not Frank's fault. Anyway, and then my last honorable mention is King Crimson's "Lark's Tongue and Aspic." This is a great album. This is the start of the best lineup, I think, of Crimson, with Wetton and Bruford. They would soon become a trio, and they will pop up again on my list here. But as an honorable mention, boy, this Crimson album is hard for me to keep it out of the top 5. But I had to, because number 5, I've got Roxy Music, For Your Pleasure. Probably my favorite Roxy Music album. It's Eno Ascendant on here. Brian Eno takes a much larger role, and I think it was always Brian Ferry's group. Even Brian Eno says that in interviews. And this was where I think they were clashing on the future direction of the band. And I think Eno had to leave at this point. He was just brimming over with talent. But I think I love this album. This is my favorite Roxy Music album, and I like quite a few Roxy Music albums, and I like the Eno-less ones as well. But boy, it's art pop, art rock to the extreme, including long instrumental sessions of almost free. It comes close to like freeform jazz or avant-garde almost, and that's primarily, I think, due to Great album. Roxy Music, For Your Pleasure. Number 4 is going to be one you just mentioned, Adrian, Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It's probably my favorite Sabbath album. Um, and part of the reason is because they bring in, for instance, Rick Wakeman on piano. They like expand out from here. They don't stay within the narrow confines of the genre that they helped to create metal. They actually broaden their appeal, broaden their approach, while still keeping a metal edge. Um, Tony Iommi is really just he's fast, becoming one of the best guitarists of the 70s, if not already by the time Sabbath Bloody Sabbath comes out. Love Tony Iommi's guitar playing. So let's see. Number three is this album right here. Waylon Jennings, Honky Tonk Heroes. This is Waylon Jennings' first crossover album into rock. This was peak outlaw country. He and Willie Nelson were releasing some of their best material at this point. And this is basically Waylon's tribute to the juke joints and the honky tonks that he grew up with in Texas. Um, his voice is so rich, and he's got such a great baritone. He wasn't a major songwriter, not like Willie, but he was a huge influence on the future of country music for the next decade to 2 decades. At this point in time in country music, it was called countrypolitan. It was lush with these syrupy strings. Even Loretta Lynn was taking this approach. Conway Twitty, some of the big stars had these full orchestras behind them. And both Waylon and Willie Nelson bucked against this trend. They hated it. And their albums were much more stripped back, raw, pure country in a way, but with a hard rock attitude and edge. This is just a great album. Waylon Jennings, he doesn't get enough credit, I think. My number two album, I don't think I'm not going to reach for it, but it's Intervisions, Stevie Wonder. Everything you said, times 10. Golden Lady. Oh, I love that song so much. Too High. It's a great opening track. It's such a great opening track. This is peak Stevie. It's coming fully into his own. Um, Talking Book and Music of My Mind was leading up to this. And just through and through, every Living for the Cities on this as well. Every single track on this album is killer. Every single one. Um, don't Worry About a Thing. So many good songs on this album. This is 5 star, and uh, you know, I'd take it to 11. It's just it's such an awesome album. Love Stevie. My number one album is going to be Herbie Hancock, Headhunters. This is a great blend of jazz and it's jazz fusion, but it's a great blend of jazz and funk, and it is funky, and I mean really funky, but it's approachable. It's not like Miles Davis is on the corner. This is actually it's got it's got singable melodies, even though it's instrumental. It keeps a solid groove. In fact, the groove's so deep it digs trenches in every song. Herbie Hancock takes his signature tune Watermelon Man that he debuted on his first album and turns it around here with the Headhunters into a funk exploration that is mind melding. There's a song on here called Vein Melter, and that's exactly what this album does. This album was the second best selling jazz album of all time, right behind Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. And there's a reason for it. I mean, this really appeals to either casual jazz fans or non fans of jazz. One of the two. It's very approachable by and to a large amount of people. It's just funky. It's so funky. The groove never stops on this album. Just wonderful. Herbie Hancock, Headhunters is my number one.
Nice, nice. The yeah, those Marley records should have been on my honorable mentions. Both Catch a Fire and Burnin'. For whatever reason,
Hmm.
I don't have those ones in my rate your music yet. I don't know why, but those both 4.5
You
plus.
like Marley a lot.
Love them. I don't know why I didn't
Yeah.
put these scores in, but it is what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, nothing else for me to really State. Haven't gotten around to Headhunters yet. I need to. Sounds up my alley. Just so much
Yes, I
stuff.
think it
Just,
is.
it's wild. Just
I think
all,
it is. I think I know someone else that's jazzy and funky coming up on your list, and or maybe not. Um, and it's in the similar vein of that.
yep, yep. Not quite making my list, but I do like that. I do like them. Assuming that we're talking about the same person, which I
I
believe.
think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll leave it ambiguous. But I will say, through you mentioning one thing, you did shake up my 74 list, but we will get to that in 10
Okay.
minutes. That being said, I hope that you all enjoyed this discussion. For your 73, it's loaded. Great stuff all across the board. You'll have a good time. Bye.